Welcome to the Matchcast, the match fishing podcast with me, Jake Fowles, my co-host Rich Chapman, and today's star guest, Andy Bennett. So there's only one place to start this week in match fishing and this weekend's Fisher Mania final. So, well done. How did it all go for you?
Well, it didn't all go to plan. Yeah, it didn't. Started all right. I was undecided really what to start on. We'd practice leading up to it, and that was one peg I wanted to practice on the Tuesday. But obviously, with the sky cameras coming, we weren't able to get on that banking. So it was probably the only peg in the match that I didn't really know what to do. My mind was set on every other peg. I thought, get there, have a look, see what's what. It was either a method feeder or a long pole to start with. Started on the long pole, caught 2 carp and a crassio. It was all going well. And then I missed an odd bite, probably from crassios. Didn't feel like there was many fish there, but I was getting an odd bite, which kept me on it for a bit longer than I wanted. And then I ended up fishing a waggler mid-match. Had a little go on a bomb, caught one on that. It was just one of them matches where you sort of trying to make something happen and it's not happening, which is typical of hayfield really. Big fish, you need to be patient, set your stall out what you want to do, and luckily last 45 minutes a few fish have started to show on the pole, and I've ended up catching sort of 6 decent carp and just nipping it basically.
Yeah, and that's one thing from a spectator's point of view. It was a brilliant match, so the leaderboard changed pretty regularly, pretty much every half an hour. That top of the leaderboard sort of changed. And it just seemed like chopping and changing a few, nicking an odd fish was the way sort of to go.
Yeah, I mean, they always say Fisher Mania, any match really, keep putting fish in the net, you'll always be there or thereabouts. And I managed to catch fish every weigh-in, albeit I only had 2 crassio, 1 weigh-in, but it put something in the net. And I think the biggest thing is like giving yourself a chance, so that if you've got a chance with an hour to go, you're still in the match. And I was still in the match, and I never felt like I'd had a good run on anything. With an hour and a half to go, I said to my bank runner Paul, I'm just going to sit on this waggler till the end, because that's the only way I could see myself winning. I'd seen no signs of fish on the pole. Didn't think they were going to come back. It felt like the fish had drifted to my right, and then slowly but surely they started to drift back up. Jamie, Jordan stopped catching on pegs 1 and 2. They started getting a few more bites just off the island to my right, and then luckily, they've come back on that pole, which is a massive advantage on that peg.
Yeah, definitely. And with that, so you ended up with 52 kilo, 200. Simon Skelton 45 kilo, 225, and Jamie Hughes 39 kilo, 600. So it is close, bearing in mind how big the fish are. And right throughout the match, even middle of the match onwards, a couple of fish could get anybody even lower down.
That last hour, realistically, there was probably 5 or 6 people that thought, I've got a chance going into this, which for a final like that you can't really ask for any more. And I think even that last weigh-in, there was yourself, Simon, and Jamie, if he'd had a bit of a run, that were within a fish. What fish or two, really?
I think with 3 weigh-ins to go, it was a kilo in it.
Yeah.
With an hour to go, so the second to last weigh-in, there was sort of, I think I had 42, Simon had 40, and Jamie had 39, so there's 3 kilo in it or something like that. But there's always a delay on the board, so you never quite know. I knew Simon had 1 great big one in the net, probably 8-9 pound, so I knew he was ahead of me at that point, and then I caught 2, so I was thinking I'm just ahead. And then I'm not sure if he had a fish the last weigh-in, he might have had 1, but you never, you're not looking at the scoreboard, but people are saying, there's 2 kilo in it, but really there's not. Jamie's not had a fish so everything's going through your head, but you just got to stick to your guns. And I think,
is this where picking your bank run is so important as well?
Yeah,
Paul, he knows that sort of fishing as well. He can sort of help you with decisions, because in the zone you might not be, as much as like you're good under pressure, you might not be thinking exactly clear, or you might not see something that he will, because he's able to look around a bit more than you.
Yeah, I mean, it can work both ways. Like, Paul's really good at rod and line fishing, so he's got a lot more confidence in it than I have. And I was flogging that waggler, not really catching much, and he's like, just try sinking your line coming back off the island. And I didn't feel like there was any feeding fish in my peg. And he's like, look, it's your decision. So it can work for and against you, and he sort of didn't feel like they were going to come back on the pole. But every time I've fished in a match at Hayfield, there's always been, an hour to go, I've seen 2 cruisers come past really fast. No, not going to catch them, but they've swam past at 5 metres. I've not seen that all day.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, fish are coming in. he sat so low down, he don't see them fish.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I've seen 2 at 6 metres swim past. And he's like, oh, have you? And when you stood up on the bank, you can see a lot more fish.
Yeah.
And quite a few people said that.
Yeah.
From obviously standing up on the bank in the crowd, there was like, why are they not going for that? Why are they not But when you actually sat down there, it's a totally different ball game.
You can't see anything. So it can work for and against you, because he's sort of, have a go on that maybe. And I'm like, I don't really want to do that. I think I'm going to go on the pole. Well, I don't think you're going to catch on the pole. And it's like, but what Paul's really good at, because he could see the fish drifting back, and he knew the fish, like, all of a sudden he's saying, they've stopped catching down now, they're coming back up now. So because he's got the match experience and he can see what's happening, all of a sudden, people don't have to necessarily be catching fish, just start getting bites, start getting more indications. And because he's a good match angler, if you like, I think it's important to have a good bank runner who's actually really good at fishing, because they know what's going to happen. They've seen it a million times. They've got the experience. If you haven't got that experience, you might not have that confidence that they're going to turn up late.
Yeah, it's almost like we using it as well, just kind of like clarify your own thoughts on it as well, where am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And it just kind of puts your mind at rest.
I mean, I'm saying to Paul all the time, like, him and Will, like, leading up to the week, we practiced, me, Will, Callum and Paul, and last year it was like me and Paul. So if he thinks something's right and I think something's right, you start arguing.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. We're just putting things together, and he's like, well, I think this is better, and then you're undecided. Whereas when there's 4 heads, Callum and Will have been brilliant this week. Went up Monday, Tuesday with them. I fished the Open on the Wednesday, and I knew exactly what I was going to do. Whereas when we practiced on the Tuesday, it was totally different to the Monday.
Yeah.
We caught a lot of fish on the splash on the Monday, for example. Tuesday it was catching a lot of fish just hanging the bait there. So I was a bit undecided how I was going to fish the waggler. When I fished the match in practice on Wednesday and it was pegged the same as fish show, I caught 7 of my 10 fish all on the splash. So I knew that I'd have to use a different flow and I'd have to fish that way. And that's basically what Will was saying to me. When I tried to speak to Will on the Tuesday and I was like, look, come and have a go on my gear, he's like, no, I'm not fishing like that. And when you've got somebody like that saying, that's not how I want to fish like this, and then you've got Paul sort of saying, well, you can't ignore this, so we'll set a rod up for it just in case. Like, Paul's one of them anglers who likes to cover everything.
Yeah.
And
I've seen it by his wrist on a match. He's got about 30 top kits set up.
If he needs 30 top kits set up, he'll leave no stone unturned. Whereas I'm very similar to Will, that I want to set up what I think I need to win, and that's what I'm going to be doing. If I get it wrong, I get it wrong. Don't get me wrong, I cover my options sometimes, but I like to have a set plan. Not necessarily a set plan. If I'm going to fish a method, that's how I want to fish it. If I think that's right, that's what I'll go and do. That's why you practice. And just having 4 heads clarifying what you're going to do is a massive advantage. So, thanks to all 3 of them, because without them, I'd have been a bit undecided, I think, going into the final.
You could have sat on that peg which you hadn't practiced and been a bit more like, I've got a load of options here, and I don't know which are going to be the best.
And it is one of them pegs where, if I'd have drawn any other peg, I think I'd have just fished long pole, chucked a method maybe, bomb and waggler. You got 4 tactics, but realistically I'd have probably just fished the waggler for 4 to 5 hours.
Yeah.
Whereas with that peg I was on, because it narrows up, the only way I could see myself winning was on the pole.
Yeah.
And when it's not happening, you're sort of thinking, well, my chance is gone. I'm trying to catch fish on this waggler, and that particular peg, you can just about fire pellets to it. It's a lot further than you think. It's probably 30, 35 metres. And you start seeing fish sucking off the bank.
Yeah.
And you had to get right tight to the bank to get a bite. But then if you fish to the right hand side of the point, it's very snaggy. So like a couple of times I've chucked over, my float's landed nice, I've gone to wind in and I'm snagged. So you had a little spot where you could cast and then the bank's going away from you.
Yeah.
So with like an hour and a half to go, I've lost 2 full setups, started to go into meltdown, just kept, that's when Paul's come into it. He's like, just chuck your bomb out, set back up, go again. And I did sort of 2, I got snapped I think 4 times, but I had 2 rods set up. I had to reset up twice fully. In an official Mania final, it's not what you want to be doing.
It's not, but it's something that not a lot. Like, for example, I know myself, a lot of the time, if something's not going my way, and you said there, it wasn't like you went on it and you were just catching straight away sort of thing. Like, I'd be like, I'd chuck it out, snagged again. And I'd just be like, right, they're going up the bank. And it just takes that. And I'm with Paul being sat there, just to calm you down a little bit in them situations, just to say, just chuck your bomb out, reset it up, and you do it. Where sometimes you might just think, right, sack that off.
Yeah, sack that off. In an open, I probably would have just sacked that off and thought, right, I'll chuck bomb out. And I caught one on a bomb, but I felt the only way I would win with an hour and a half to go was the waggler.
Yep.
And then with 45 minutes to go, it weren't really happening. And I'm thinking, well, the only way I'm going to win now is if I catch on the pole. So, like, I've had to make that decision. Luckily, it paid off, but it wasn't looking like it was going to. I seen a ghostie sort of come within pole range, so I shipped out quick, caught that fish. Not mugged it, it's actually caught in its feed, so I thought there must be a couple more there. And then it's been quite steady till the end then. Looking back, in hindsight, which is easy, but I could have probably fished pole shallow all day and just caught 1 or 2 fish every half hour weigh in and maybe had 60 kilo, and you'd have thought, well, that was easy, but it's never like that.
Yeah, I think everyone who's won a final that you speak to, they kind of say similar, where if you've got the bottle to sit on something all day and kind of just, especially at Hayfield where it's bigger fish, if you can be putting 1 or 2 fish away and you won't be a million miles off. And I suppose it's when you're sat there and you're getting those live updates that are kind of in your head, he's had a good half hour, he's caught up. Did you find that kind of change your approach at all, or influenced you on your decision making more than if it was just a regular one way in?
I mean, 2 hours to go, I honestly thought I'm fishing for second here. I thought Jamie was going to push on and win because he seemed to be catching steady, and it's not an area I felt like he was just off the fish before the draw. But then when he's caught really well early and he had a good run, I felt like he's just going to push on now. He's just going to do what he does. And luckily for me, the fish moved away from him. Otherwise, I think 3 or 4 more bites and he probably would have won it. Simon, I didn't realise he had that much next to me. He had 4 decent fish in, I think it was the second or third hour, and he actually went into the lead with like 28 kilo. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, where's that come from? I didn't realise he'd had that, because you're so focused in what you're doing. And you don't know how big the fish are. It could be 4 fish, £6 a piece. It could be 4 8-pounders. So when he plonks like 10, 12 kilo on scales, when you think he's only had 7 or 8 kilos, all of a sudden you think, right, I need to do something here, because I ain't going to catch 3 or 4 fish doing this method.
Yeah.
But that's why you practice. And I watched the final last year, which helped me a lot, to be honest, because I sat right behind them 2 pegs. I sat between Pete Black and Steve Ford, and I watched Steve Ford, and he had a lot of options and he didn't really settle on anything, whereas Pete just fished one method virtually all day, had a little look on the waggler late on, and I thought he fished a really tidy, simple match.
Yeah.
Whereas Steve, he had the same problem as I had. He had fish on the waggler line, they're hard to catch. You can see them, and the crowd's like, God, there's 3 or 4 there, and you can hear the crowd, but there's 3 or 4 sucking off a banking, and if the pellet lands behind them, they're not interested.
Yeah.
I've seen it loads of venues. Once they get preoccupied sucking in the grass,
it's like on the pole, you could drop that in and just drop it into the mouth pretty much. You can't do that on a waggler.
Not on a waggler,
and people say, oh, you've been snagged up a couple of times, but that's literally because of how tight you had to chuck. It wasn't even, you couldn't drop it short, you just wouldn't have got a bite.
I started off a bit short, and I never had a bite on the splash, or it's a different style to fishing in open water. Like in open water, they've got the room to turn around, but when they're feeding off the bank almost, and you've got to land it within sort of 6 or 8 inches to start with, the wind's coming across you, put a bigger float on, and then that little bit, the wind won't be so bad, and you'd cast it and you think, right, that's nice. Next chuck, wind would get up, you cast it a little bit harder, and if you checked it just a bit too far to the left, then it might land like 2 foot off the island, and then you'd be tighter to the island, and then next chuck you're in the grass. And as soon as I pulled that first twig off, I honestly thought, no, it's not going my way now.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, so your partner was emotional. Lee said that he was emotional. You were obviously at the end of the match. Has it sunk in yet?
Not really. I mean,
it's only been a day or 2 and we've college.
Yeah, I've replied to all the messages. Massive thanks to everyone who's wished me well and all the rest of it. Been hundreds of messages, literally. Very proud, do you know what I mean? The last hour was probably the best feeling I've ever had in match fishing, because when you hear your friends and family and even people you don't know but follow you fishing, and they're cheering you on, and I didn't really turn around much. I just sort of had my headphones in, listening to music, just sort of trying to, one ear listening to Paul, and then you don't really notice the music in your ear until something goes.
What's your playlist?
Well, just had Talk Tonight by Oasis all the time, about 100 times in a day, and it's just like basically just. It's there when you need it. Like, you don't notice it until something starts going wrong. So when I started getting caught up on the waggler, you know, you start hearing the music then. When you're doing all right and you catch it and you concentrate and you don't even know it's there, to be honest. But it did help me. It's something that I never normally do. Paul does it all the time, and he's like, I'll bring my iPod and you can just put it in if you want to listen to it. If you don't, just press the button and that's it.
Yeah.
But
well, is it just getting you into a bit of a tempo, do you think? Just
a bit of a tempo, just calms you down a bit. And like, nerve-wise, I've been in a lot of finals. I never really get. The only time I ever get nervous is when I'm drawing, because it's the anticipation of, like, I could draw a peg where I'm going to win 50 grand, 70 grand, 25 grand, whatever it may be, and that's where it's sort of you're either broken-hearted or you're just thinking, yes, I've got a chance.
You can't really control it as well.
Yeah, and it's like it's out of your hands then, you know. And all week I'd wanted peg 5 or 6, so. When I drew peg 6, it was like perfect. Like, this is the only time I've ever called a peg almost in a final. I think I've been in 12 finals now, and I've never called the peg I've wanted. I've been happy after the draw and thought, like, yeah, I've got half a chance, and then you fish and you realise you haven't, but you go to your peg optimistic. I've had a few where it's like, got no chance there, but I honestly felt like 5 and 6, if I'd have drawn one of them 2 pegs, I'd be in a chance of first or second in the match, and as it turned out, they were first and second in the match, so I was right.
Brilliant. Right, 50 grand.
Yeah.
Your partner's already spent some of it on a new kitchen, I see.
No, that was pre-fish show.
Yeah,
pre-fish show. So I've just bought a new house, spent all my money on that basically, so the money's brilliant because it's going to help me. Give a little bit to Will, a little bit to Jamie, a little bit to Paul, and then the rest of it will go on my house.
Brilliant. So good timing with that then.
Yeah, perfect timing really, because I'm skint now.
Brilliant. Right, we'll move on to a few of the other events that have been going on, and then we'll come back to your life in fishing.
That was the other point I just wanted to make on new format of fish. I don't think you was probably aware of this.
No, I wasn't aware of
this.
You
get the automatic pass into the final, because I think I was doing a bit of filming at the time, and your face was on the screen as I read it out, and it was a bit like,
yeah, well,
right, what's going on here? But
they saved it for afterwards. Like Emily from Sky, who announced it, she said, like, we didn't want to say to anybody, but yeah, it's a new thing. So next year they've got 4 foreign qualifiers. I think Belgium, Germany, possibly 2 in each or something. So there'll be 4 overseas anglers coming fishing instead of 2. We had Mark Visser and Billen this year, Germany and Belgium I think it was, and then the national winner of the ladies national.
Yeah, so that I think's gone down well, because obviously this year it was a smaller match. At least the ladies national generally is between 60 and 80 anglers.
Yeah, so it's a
it's
a deserving. Not saying it wasn't deserving with Abby, but obviously a lot of people. It doesn't bother me, and I can see both sides of it. But you know, at the end of the day, I like Abby. She's fished a match. I actually helped give her a couple of rigs, told her what to do when she qualified.
Yeah.
And
she more than held her own in the final as well.
She second in the midweek open on my peg.
Yeah.
You know, so she's well good enough to compete.
Definitely.
And she doesn't agree with it herself, but like she said, she's not daft. If she's given the opportunity to fish a match, and nobody knew there was going to be 27 on it. We thought it'd be more popular. Yeah. So it's none of the ladies' fault. It's just something that Matchroom Sport tried, and it didn't pay off. So this year, I think a lot of people will be able to accept it more because the match is going to be bigger.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, we're trying to make the sport bigger, more of an international event as well as. And I think it's, you know, it's good for fishing.
Yeah, I think that was a good move. At least that's the ladies' match with the numbers, which sort of equate to a general qualifier.
Yeah, like a general qualifier.
So that's good. And so getting ready to defend your title for next year, you can start thinking about that already.
Saves a bit of driving round and
save some driving. To be honest, like, fish show has always been my last on my list. If I'm being honest, I've always thought I wouldn't like the cameras in my face. Like, my pick has always been Match This or Golden Reel, but now I've been there and I've experienced the noise and the atmosphere and everything else. like fish oil be my first choice from now on,
Yeah.
because it's such a massive spectacle, if you like.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was good. And then just go from there, really. I mean, it's going to save me a lot of money and a lot of time and effort travelling about. I can spend more time now trying to qualify for the other ones. So
yeah, definitely.
Massive bonus for me.
Brilliant. Right. This week in match fishing, other events. We'll start with, there was 2 golden reel qualifiers this weekend. First one at Herronbrook. So Herronbrook always generally fishes pretty well. So Ryan Bennett's won this with a weight of £273, 14 ounce from peg 1 on bridge.
Yeah.
So a good peg.
Yeah, brilliant peg. Our cousin's won it. No, he's not really my cousin. We just have a joke about it. Yeah, good peg. He's caught on maggot shallow and he's 6 metres. I think.
Yeah, I think
he
he's
said
had a couple long by the tree to start off with, and he's gone short and stopped there all day, which is
I think he said 10 minutes in they were swirling. He's had a massive weight, because
nice.
they're generally a pound to 2.5 pound on there. So he's had a lot of fish. A busy day. Felt for my mate Sam Slockett, he was second.
Yeah, so Sam Slockett and Andy Power were joint second.
257.
Yeah, so Sam Slockett, he's already qualified for one of the finals.
Qualified for match this. He come up and practice with me for fish show. He'll be coming up with a match this, practicing with me as well. He's a good friend of mine, Sam. So I was a bit gutted for him, because I'd have loved to seen him qualify. But fair play to Ryan, brilliant angler. Powers is always thereabouts. I think he qualified against Sunday.
Yeah, so moving on to the Sunday. So Andy Power, second on the Saturday. He's gone and won it at Lindholm Lakes on the Sunday with monstrous weight of £337, 14 ounce, peg 33 on Laurels. So generally at Lindholm, people expect bennies to win. There wasn't actually that many. There was only 16 people on bennies.
Yeah.
So that sort of means that you kind of favour bennies. And he's pulled that out of the bag on Laurels.
There's not many places you can not win with £300 plus, is there?
Yeah, I mean, I fished the same qualifier last year because I wasn't going to go. I went and watched the fish show, and I said to my mate about 10 o'clock on the Saturday night after we got home from fish show, do you want to go Lindholm tomorrow? He's like, no. And I went, and I actually qualified off Laurels myself with 2:20, and that was a quite not an easy win, but I won by a bit. So I'm surprised it's fished that well.
Yeah.
And it's that just says Andy Power all over. He's had to break the lake record to qualify.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
So can you really? So
I spoke to him when I qualified for fish show. He was behind me. He wasn't on a very good peg, but I said to him he'd come round after the match. I said they'll just be like buses. You know what I mean? I said you'll get there, and it's just he puts the time and effort in, same as Jamie, and he deserves everything he gets, because he will travel 300 miles there, 300 miles back if he needs to fish a match to try and qualify. And he's put the effort in this weekend.
Over £600 of fish in 2 days.
Yeah. And good, unbelievable.
Yeah. Have they done a load of work on? Because it seems to have suddenly kicked off, that Laurels. They did some work on it, didn't they? Redug it a bit, and it seems to have gone mad recently.
He redug it, and I don't think he restocked it. He's just redug it. But the difference is, Laurels, Willers is the same. Willers has got, I would say, I used to prefer Willers to Laurels. But the difference with Laurels now, you've got shallow water in the edge. He's dug the banks out, so instead of having 4 foot in the edge, you could have 12, 15 inches in the edge. So all of a sudden, a lot more bigger fish are showing. You can catch them properly because you've got the right depth in the edge. Depth of water is massive. If you're trying to catch fish in 4 foot compared to 10 inches, it's so much easier, and you'll catch different fish. And obviously Aaron said to me something like the oxygen levels, when he took all the cover away and he cut everything back, went from something like 40 to 70.
Yeah.
So straight away the lake is naturally more oxygenated.
Just from getting a bit of wind,
getting more wind,
breeze, just that bit of ripple, a bit of water movement.
It's nice having trees and everything around the fishery, but you need that oxygen. When it's hot and still, like today, for example. I spoke to Nelly this morning. He's going to come and cut all the reeds back just to get a bit of wind on the water and stuff like that. It just makes the fish feed better, oxygen levels higher.
It's just proper fishery management rather than getting to the point where there is a big oxygen crash and something goes mega wrong. You're kind of ahead of the game almost and making it better before it goes horribly wrong.
I think myself and Joe, we did a bit on these lakes where you can have loads and loads of fish in the lake. If there's no oxygen or very little oxygen, they're not going to feed. It has to be dead right, and taking your small fish out, the fishery management side of things is so important. By having a good fishery manager is good. So in that, Andy Power won it, Dale Shepherd was second, and Mick Owen third, both on bennies. Again, £308, £300. 3 weights over 300, 8 weights over 200, 38 weights over £100.
Good, that, innit?
Daft,
I'm
innit?
there next week for the festival, so it should be good.
Should be good. Riverfest, moving on to Riverfest. Nicky Jose won this, £23 11 ounce. This was on the River Tyne. There was another qualifier. I don't know who it was. So if anyone knows, just comment below and let everyone know. Feeder Masters, Carmill Dam, so just up the road. Qualifiers were Matt Pillay, James Place and Lee Addy. So Matt Pillay won the match, £21 12 ounce. James Place second in the match, different zone, so he was second in the match, £19 4 ounce. And then Lee Addy, he won his zone, £13 12 ounce.
All good friends of mine, so really pleased to see all three of them go through. Lee Addy, be dangerous, that style of fishing. Tamar, he will do really well, I think, in that final. It'll suit him right down to the ground.
Definitely. Matt Pillay sort of changed a bit of his focus in fishing a bit, because he's sort of veered towards the feeder side of things, and it's paying off.
He's put a lot of time in the last couple of years, Matt. I used to fish with Matt quite a bit up at Lindholm. We stopped at mine a few times. Lovely lad. He was, I don't know, I mean, he loves that type of fishing now. He goes Southfield a lot, putting the time in. Like I say, he's getting the rewards now.
Yeah.